What was the weirdest date you've ever been on? Dated a woman who didn't tell me she needed meds because she was psychotic. In the middle of dinner, at a restaurant, she got quiet and distracted. I asked if she was feeling okay. Apparently one of the voices told her I was a horrible person and she pulled a steak knife on me. A customer was able to talk to her and got her to put the knife down. The police were called and she was arrested. I didn't press charges. And about a week later, she sent me a letter with proof that she's been in counseling for a long time, takes medication, and included a heartfelt apology. This girl from Tinder invited me over to cuddle. So I assumed that we were totally going to bang. I get there. She cooked a lovely dinner. And we just kind of held each other and talked about our traumas for a while. I told her about stuff I don't even really talk about with my closest friends. Then we moved to her bed and she fell asleep like fast. And we just sorta cuddled all night. We never even kissed. Except those back of the neck ones that happen when you are spooning. I woke up. We cuddled a little more. And then I went to work. It was an awesome, super intimate experience. Pretty weird though. Did you see her again? I'm actually meeting up with her tonight. I'll edit this post to let you all know how it goes. I went on a 4-hour date with a woman who rides horses for a living. The entire 4 hours she told me everything I could possibly want to know about horses and then some. I learned so much about horses that I done forgot most the shit she told me. Edit, holy duck. The puns have me dying lol. That sounds like a stable relationship. He was a shoo-in. As long as they're happy. That's the main thing. All of you had better stop horsing around. Hooked up with a girl. She was 28, with dentures and she gave me a gum job. I was on a date with a MTF transgender woman who was shocked and turned off by the fact that I am a bisexual man. This chick suggested we go to this experimental art exhibit thing. It had a giant ball pit for adults, among other things. Pretty interesting to have two 30-somethings in a ball pit for a date. Fun time. I went on a date with a girl to a bar and grill. The girl just got set free from a bad relationship. The bartender was her uncle. The server was her sister. And her fresh ex-boyfriend was there on a date with another guy. Told a girl I was into granola environmental sheet. She replied me too, we hit it off quickly. Anyway. She kept talking up how incredible her job was and that she taught a bunch of kids about environmental issues and how amazing this job was. Basically begging me to come check it out. So we picked a day and I took the day off from work. It had been a while since we saw each other, so she decided it would be fun to send me real kinky texts about fun places we could sneak off to around her work as it was her fantasy. I was down. And I was getting in the mood myself. I drive to her work. Only to find out she works at a trash burning power plant and recycling center, and on that day we'll be giving a tour to a bunch of preschoolers. Throughout the date, basically every chance she could, she would try to get me turned on when no one was looking. There were about 20 kids and teachers right there. Meanwhile we're walking through piles of rotten trash, or looking at machinery that could kill you in an instant if you stepped over a boundary line. Or staring into a white hot furnace to see the burning trash. Therefore you walked around, the dirtier you felt. Which in a way was not surprising. I still had the worst blue gonads in my life, which in itself was questionable. Anyway. The tour ended. She took me in her office and, well, let's just say it took 3 showers and a wave to a priest to feel clean after that. The girl took me to a cemetery at night. Walked me to a grave. Explained that it was her cousin and that night was the anniversary of his death. Then told me a long story about the time he raped her. I went on a date with a girl who stood me up to the movies. I watched the movie, It Too, then went to dinner at Marie Callender's by myself. There I met people from a robotics club from my college and wanted to participate. My first meeting is this Friday. Best stood up. Help me, I'm lonely. Outing date so far. 10/10 would do again. I went on a date with a guy. He invited me over to his apartment. Little did I know that it was a basement apartment. So the air was awful, it was under reconstruction, and no daylight. I felt weird. So I sent my location to few of my friends just in case if he wanted to heal me. It went well. He didn't heal me. I sucked his big dig and left. My first dating app date. Starts off pretty good. We barely put in our dinner order and her phone starts blowing up. Her ex was drunk and causing a scene outside her app. Her ex kept calling. Then her roommate started and then the landlord calls threatening to call the police. We get our food to go and I take her back to her app. Long story short. Both her and her ex are crying messes. She goes inside. Leaves me outside with crying drunk ex who starts telling me all about how he messed their relationship. Dude is way too drunk to drive. I end up driving him to his app. Uber back to my car. Realize my date took all the food with her. The joys of dating. Another one. I went on a date with this girl from Tinder. She super liked me and messaged first. So I was really happy to have someone interested. I asked if she'd like to go for a walk sometime and she said she'd love to. So we get to walking and like 5 minutes in. She asks if I have roommates. I said yes. I live with 5 people and tell her about a few of them. There's Max. Matt. Mark. Wait. Mark Smith? I know him. What's he been up to? So we start chatting about my roommate and she knows a lot about him. His family. The sports he plays. His girlfriend. Every time I try to move the conversation somewhere else, she brings it back to Mark. She's not even pretending to be into me anymore. She's just fangirling out over my roommate. I just love him. His hair is always so shiny and he smells so nice. She spends the full 2 hours talking about him and asking all sorts of questions. I didn't really know what to do. So I just boredly keep answering. When we get back to our cars, she shifts gears again. Hey. So I had a really great time. Want to go back to your place to have some fun? She's really creeping me out at this point. So I tell her I have homework to do and maybe later. I get back and tell Mark about the date and he knows exactly who she is. He picks up his phone and immediately calls the police. They show up at the house, find the girl outside in the backyard and arrest her for violating a restraining order or something. It turned out she was super unstable and had stalked my roommate since they went on one date almost a year prior. She recognized from photos she had of him and used me to find out where he lived. I went on a date with a girl who does not ever listen to music by choice. Who says all food tastes the same, kept emphasizing that she eats to live and not lives to eat. Has never finished any book or TV series in her life. And was about the coldest, not angry, just cold, human being I've ever met. Conversation was as awkward as you can imagine. I'm no psychologist but I'm pretty sure she was my first, and hopefully last, schizoid personality disorder date. I went on a date with a guy who was supposed to pick me up after work. He showed up before my shift started. Stayed all day. He stole stuff from my work. Or tried to. I wasn't aware of this until coworkers told me the next day. He brought me to the Waffle House and blew his nose at the table repeatedly. He went to the bathroom a bunch as well. His car broke down when it was time to leave and our waitress, who he tipped in change, had to give him a jump. He also told me about his hobby of LARPing, which is live action role playing or dressing up like weird stuff for those who don't know. And told me that the books I read were for stupid people. He asked me out for 5 years after this. And I blocked him on all media. I finally changed my email address and got rid of him. Went on a Tinder date who made it clear she had mental health issues and PTSD from past trauma. We decided to meet for bubble tea. I get a seat and wait. She walks in with a large stuffed shark. Cool. Plushies are fine. They can be a good therapeutic tool. She gets her beverage. We sit down to drink. Not even a hello was exchanged and we dive right into how she was assaulted and raped. I was in the healthcare field. I can listen. The thing is though, she was talking very loudly. Uncomfortable levels of loudness about tough issues. I could not redirect her or change the topic. Nothing. She wasn't having any of that. So I panicked and said, want to go to your car and make out? Her eyes light up and she loosens the grip on her stuffed shark. Okay. We get back to her car. We kiss, very awkward. It was mostly teeth. And the shark was kind of between us. I mentioned how I'm kink friendly to her previously. She hit me with a weird question in this awkward teethy kissing. Can we do some great play? I kind of panicked again. Are you sure? I mean, maybe? We can walk to the park, I stammered. We get out of the car. We walk towards the park. The entire time she is talking about her trauma. All that jazz. Just awkward. We get to a fairly private space. She softly says, maybe we shouldn't do this. Yeah? Sounds good to me. I ended up jerking off while she watched me. I took an Uber home. I texted her that I had a good time. She ghosted me 100%. First ever date. We watched Ted 2. Halfway in he shows me a picture of a dog sticking his tongue out with the text kiss above it. And when I turned to him he gave me a peck on the lips and went on as if nothing happened. We dated for about 6 months after that, but damn. My friends and I had a lot to drink, then went out and had more to drink. We were at a bar club and everyone was dancing and having a good idea. I myself was pretty in the bag by this point. Anyway, the night went on. I eventually started dancing with this girl and her group of friends. We must have spent at least 2 hours dancing, hanging out, etc. There may have been some kissing, but nothing gratuitous. Anyway, we exchanged numbers and went home with our separate groups. The next day, I get several texts from the girl I barely remember dancing and hanging out with. Thanks. Booze. She told me that she had had a great time and that we should go out to dinner. I said sure. I said I would pick her up and did, and we drove to a restaurant. As soon as she started talking I realized I had absolutely no interest or connection. I was not into her conversation. Didn't like her voice. Didn't find her attractive, which was just a matter of my personal preference. My previous relationship had been a long one and I was finally ready to start seriously dating again. I was looking for the one and didn't want to spend time on someone who wasn't going to be that person. By the time we got to the restaurant I was certain that there was zero chance anything would come out of this from my end. In any case, I tried to be a gentleman and listened and told jokes. The waiter then came over, took our orders, and decided to make the following comment: you both are really cute together. I see a lot of couples and you can tell which ones have it and which ones don't. You both have it. She really liked that. I just smiled and wished the night would just end. After what seemed like forever, we left. I drove her home and she asked if we could go for a walk, and I said sure. That walk consisted of her telling me how much of a connection she felt and how right the waiter was. I didn't say a word. When we got back to her place she said, do you want to come up? And I told her that I didn't think it would be a good idea. I never regretted that decision since my previous relationship went on way too long because I was not willing to end it when it should have. Then things got wacky. At that moment, her parents came by, because they lived down the street, for a surprise visit and had brought some stuff they were happy to find an extra set of hands around to help carry. She had just moved into the place and was slowing furnishing. What made it exciting, in retrospect, was that her girl's dad was a client of the company I worked for and I had met him before. He recognized me right away and started chatting about work stuff. Then came the questions about how I met his daughter, what my intentions were, and all that other crap. To end this particular leg of the story, I eventually said that I had an early day tomorrow and should get home to bed. I finally got out of there. Before going to bed that night I got a text from her saying that we should go out again ASAP because we need to explore this connection that is undoubtedly there.